All right, everyone. Welcome to a brand new week on the Celtic Way. It's Monday morning, and I am Hamish. Tony, you're on as well. Tony, how are things?
Very well. I'm good. Stayed up to the wee small hours to watch the Celtic win 4-0 against DC United, so it was worthwhile staying up and watching, I guess. So I'm pleased with that.
Oh, it's obviously something I do a lot here. Did you find yourself struggling to stay awake at any point?
No, I was fine because I actually went for a sleep before it wisely.
Oh.
And you know what I mean? So I went for a power nap, as they say, about 10 o'clock in the evening, woke up about 10 past 12 and thought, right, get my head in the ball game, and I actually felt okay. So I was delighted at that. The way to do
That's
it.
one of my goals for this season, because last season watching a lot of the games, I did find myself falling asleep because it was kind of 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I think that's a good way to do it, to get a wee sleep in beforehand and to stay up for it. Ryan, you will have been doing plenty of sleeping, I guess, over the past week. How was your time away, and how are you getting on?
Yeah, things were good. Enjoyed my 2 weeks off. I still was tuning in on some days to the Celtic Way podcast, so I needed to get my fix of Celtic news or lack of Celtic news. I was still very present on social media despite being off for the 2 weeks, because I'm constantly checking. You can't really switch off from it. You want to keep going and keep on keeping yourself up to date with everything that's happening or not happening. But yeah, I did watch the game. I watched bits of the game on Saturday. I was out at the time, but I still managed to watch it on my phone as well. So I was doing a bit of multitasking on that front. But yeah, a lot of positive signs, some good football, some players really taking their chances, maybe others not taking their chances as well. But, you know, a resounding win on a difficult surface, so I can't really complain.
Yeah, I thought there was loads of positives on Saturday night. I think at this stage of pre-season, that's about as much as you can expect to see, and probably more than you can expect. Robert bringing up the pitch. I wouldn't walk my dogs on that. Tony, would your dogs grace that kind of surface, or would they even turn their nose up at that pitch? It wasn't great, was it?
They've graced worse, let's put it that way. But I would walk my dogs on any surface. They have to be walked, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was a bit of a state of a pitch, wasn't it? But I thought the football Celtic played on it was very good, and the manager alluded to that as well after it, didn't he?
Yeah. From what I hear, Celtic were meant to train on that pitch on Sunday. I don't believe that happened as a result of the pitch. I don't think Brendan Rodgers was best pleased, but yeah, I thought it was good stuff, Ryan, in general. The bits of quality. The Kuhn pass for the second goal, I think, and James Forrest for the Mikey Johnson goal. We scored 4. We could have scored 8 had we taken our chances.
Yeah, every time that I looked down on my phone, I was like, Celtic are through on goal. It looked as if they had a great chance, a great opportunity to score. And they seem to be playing with the wingers as well, playing through the wingers and getting the ball out to those players quickly and early. And that's what I want to see. I do want to see better, players on those wings next season, but it seems as if that'll be the way that Celtic will play. I thought they looked really calm on the ball. Some of their passing, especially out from the back, looked good as well. Scott Bain looked good playing out from the back. I don't even think that's his problem. At the best of times, I think it's actually saving shots rather than playing with the ball at his feet, which he seems to be pretty good at. But yeah, loads of positives. I thought Yang really took his chance on Saturday as well. There's always games like this. He seems to come alive and look really dangerous in games, but it's all about consistency with him. Can he keep it going for the next few going into the start of the season? Consistency's his biggest problem. Nicholas Kuhn looked really sharp again, which is really good to see. It's a big season for him. He had quite a few excuses, worthy excuses, the losing weight due to having that dental surgery. But now he's had a full run at it. He's played every game in pre-season thus far, the 3 games, and it's a real opportunity for him this season, because I don't think it's surprising to hear that Celtic are looking to shop in that area in the wingers in the wing position. So he's got to take his chance, or he'll be moved basically.
James Forrest was still the best winger when he came on. Tells you
he was good.
Tells you all you need to know.
People say he lost his pace. He looked quick for that goal, didn't he? Great great kind of cross as well.
I like Kuhn, but I need more from Kuhn. I'm going to manager on this. I need more from these players. And when James Forrest is coming on at 32, 33 now, is he? He's showing you how to do it and looking every inch a fresh winger. And there's a reason the manager labels him the best winger at the club, because he is. It's a fact at this moment in time.
James Forrest obviously ended the season fabulously and was a big part in us winning that league. But it's no secret that before then, Brendan Rodgers, while always talking up his ability, I think it's fair to say at times, was realistic perhaps, and Rodgers certainly felt that Forrest wasn't the player that he'd been at his first spell at the club, and the team couldn't necessarily rely on James Forrest maybe in the way we had done previously. Not that we ever solely relied on James Forrest, but my question is, what is James Forrest's role this season? Is he in your mind, is he a right winger that starts the majority of matches, or do you think you'd be looking for him to come in and out the team?
I think, me personally, I want him to be an impact player and come off the bench, because I want a good right winger to be taking that position off of him. Yes, it's good that he is still the so-called best winger at the club. I understand why Brendan Rodgers is saying that, but Celtic have got to have younger and better on each side. And the fact that James Forrest had such a good end to the season was also due to the fact that the other wingers just weren't up to scratch in the latter part of the season. Look at all the familiar players that stepped up and were counted for at the end of that season. Apart from, Adam Ida and to an extent Paulo Bernardo, it was all the old guard that really came up trumps for Celtic, and that says something about their experience, but more the fact that the players that have been brought in haven't had that desired effect and haven't made that impact in the big games and the big moments. I'm fine with James Forrest being an impact player coming off the bench, because he still has clearly got lots of ability and plenty of energy left in the tank, probably making up for lost time as well with regard to his injuries he's had over the past 3-4 years. But I would want better in that position going into next season. As much as I'm happy for him to come off the bench and make an impact, I want a better player to be starting. If that can be Nicholas Kuhn, great. If not, then Celtic have got to be signing a player of that quality that can do it domestically and in Europe.
I would be very surprised if Nicholas Kuhn can offer us over the course of a season what James Forrest can offer us. Very surprised. I think James Forrest is still underrated by many. I take your point, Ryan, that it's kind of strange that a guy who wasn't featuring up until March maybe, and hadn't really featured for the best part of 2 years apart from the odd sub appearance, would now be a right winger. But Tony, is James Forrest earned that given how he ended last season? What do you think?
He's earned it now, and he's earned it when you put him up against the competition that's there. He is still the best. That says a lot about your recruitment process, doesn't it? It is a huge season for the likes of Kuhn, huge season for the likes of Yang and Palmer, to convince Rodgers that they are the wingers that make regular starts. On the basis of the evidence from the end of the season, the way he finished, and from the appetite that he's shown in pre-season friendlies, James Forrest will be your starting winger, not the others. And you play James Forrest for an hour or whatever and bring these guys on to be the impact player. But, because the manager, when he said that about Odin, Thiago Holm and Wilson Lawal, I need more, he wasn't just saying it to those two, he was saying it to others as well. He was saying it to guys like Yang, he was saying it to guys like Palmer, he was saying it to guys like Kuhn. You can have all the talent in the world, or talent, she said, and be good players. It's not enough. You'll get games with somebody, but you'll not get in my team. That's a warning shot over the bout of all these guys who have maybe tasted some first team action. They're not going to get a regular game in Brendan Rodgers' team the way he sees it moving forward. But again, that's all fine and well and good. Saying that, the proof's in the fact that we've still not bought any players in to fill these positions. And I think that's the frustrating thing now, because it's 2 weeks yesterday since the season starts. We're all saying, there's plenty of time. But if it got to the start of August and we still hadn't brought in many players, we would start to panic. I'm not panicking just yet. I still think that we can do a lot of business before the season kicks off, but you're starting to say, well, come on, let's get these deals done. Let's get the Paulo Bernardo deal done and Adam Mira deals done, if that's what they want and that they're actively pursuing them, or still actively pursuing them. No reason to suggest that they're not, but what's the hold up? What is the hold up? Because you saw the signs were there that they actually played some real aggressive, high pressing attacking football, and they cut through DC United at will at times, which was great and it's positive. But you're also still thinking, Celtic are the kind of team that would end up selling Matt O'Reilly, prior to the season kicking off. That kind of thing. They've got forum for it. You're shaking your head, Ryan, but
unthinkable.
It's unthinkable, but you're not. But you're thinking about it because it's the way Celtic do business. If somebody's to come in with an offer that they think they can do business with, they'll do it for Matt O'Reilly. That kind of thing. So, whilst it's nice to see them play some great football and stuff, you want the semblance of a settled squad, including your new players coming in. And at this minute in time, we're not seeing that, are we?
Yeah, and as you say, time is ticking on. Listen, we'll come on to that in a wee minute. Just to round off the DC United chat, was there anything else that kind of sprung to either of your minds while watching that game?
I thought, Brendan Rodgers fired that warning shot to Bosun Lawal and Odin Thiago Holm, and I thought at least for Odin Thiago Holm, I know that Lawal did struggle in that game. In the second half, he's actually taken off, although I think that was pre-planned to bring Turley onto the pitch, to give him some game time as well. But I thought Odin Thiago Holm really did show up. He was doing a lot more running than before, and he's clearly listened to what his manager's asking of him. He's a quality player. You can see he's got qualities when he's on the ball. Celtic don't have a lot of players like that look so graceful when they're on the ball with and without it as well. And I think there's something there with him. I'm just hoping that he can keep this going and really make an impact, because I think he could surprise a number of people. We've seen bits of it last season. Scored against Bucky Thistle, had a couple of decent performances here and there, but I want to see something more consistent with him next season. I want him to see him getting 5, 10, 15 games in a row in that midfield. Whatever that means. Does that mean somebody else misses out? Does that mean Matt O'Reilly moves on? I'm not saying he's going to be the Matt O'Reilly replacement. The thought of even replacing Matt O'Reilly at this point, at this juncture, is unthinkable, but we've seen stranger things before. But Odin Thiago Holm, I thought he looked impressive in the time that he was on the park, and I think there's something there to work with. It's just all about that consistency.
Yeah, it's up to Odin Thiago Holm to do what me and Tony have been saying and really force his way into that team. A lot of people quite critical of Bosun Lawal, a lot of people saying, loan him out, etc. He did struggle in that second half. Left back Matt Anderson, I think, was pretty good. Maestro picking out his performance.
I really liked Matthew Anderson. He's unlucky not to score as well near the end of the first half with a move that he started. We talk about it a lot. It's the idiosyncrasies and the attitude, application and behaviours you want to see from these young guys getting a chance. And Matthew Anderson's just come off a season with Admir Vaca.
Did he get the Player of the Year or something like that?
The Player of the Year, yeah. So they're playing a level of football, competitive football. And the boy's obviously shown that he's learned, because he was out there to say, right, I might not be the first name at the top of a Celtic supporter's minds or the manager's mind, but I'm here, I'm around, this is what I can do. And I think it was a wonderful addition from Matt Anderson, just to say to the manager, you know what I mean? I'm here, I'm 20 years old, I could be relied upon if you want to give me that nod. I know it's a pre-season game, but you're quick to call pre-season games out and players that don't turn up. But Matthew Anderson certainly took the most of his opportunity, and he impressed me. And it was just everything about him. He looked good going forward. He had the appetite, which really, as I say, which was really good to see. And even the manager said at the end, he mentioned able to bring young players in and give them a taste of it. So I think he could only improve being around that first team squad. And I'll not get carried away, but you just like to see a young player performing well when they're given that platform. And I think Matt Anderson did himself proud, and he just sort of, we nod to the manager, I'm around if you need me. If you need me and your ability, give me a shout. I'll try and not let you down. And that's all you can ask for from a young player like that. It really is.
Seems to be quite highly rated as well, so it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what his role is this season. You can crack your own jokes about our lack of left backs and Celtic looking at him as maybe being like a new signing and all of that stuff, or whether he's loaned out. Again, we'll wait and see, but I agree, I thought he was good. And he seems to be a guy on the up, so one to keep an eye on. He's probably the player I'm most excited about in terms of kind of youth team players at the moment. We're not exactly spoilt for choice. Right, okay, we'll come on to some quotes from Brendan Rodgers that they came out late last night. Before then, if you're after a reliable heating solution, MPH Boilers, our sponsors, have you covered. They're an award-winning family-run business. They serve all of mainland Scotland, and they specialise in top quality boiler installations and servicing. As you know, they're partnered with Weissman, and the boilers come with up to a 12-year warranty. Plus you get flexible finance options to make your heating upgrade easy and affordable. Check the links out in the description. We still get this offer going, guys?
We have indeed. It's on to the 30th of July, and if you're a new subscriber, you'll be entered into the draw to win a signed 2023-24 Celtic home shirt. It's open to all existing subscribers as well, but it's £1 for 6 months of access to everything that's written on the web. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. It's a fabulous prize. As I say, it's open to old or existing subscribers and new subscribers, so get yourself in the draw for that, guys. It's an excellent prize. You can win that signed framed jersey. I'm sure Ryan will replace it with the picture that he's in the background there.
Yeah, absolutely. It would fit quite nicely actually back there. I'm not going to say I'm going to win it or anything like that. I would much rather it be one of the subscribers. But yeah, good luck to everybody that's involved in that, and it's a really good offer. £1 for 6 months as well.
You must be ineligible. You can't be entering this competition, surely. That's
even if I was to win it, I would give it away to the subscribers. It's definitely for the subscribers. I'm a subscriber to the Celtic Way. I do subscribe, but I wouldn't want to be entered into that.
Alright, you're too honest for your own good, but fair enough. Right, Brendan Rodgers has confirmed that Ben Siegrist will be leaving the club. He's heading to Rapid Bucharest, who are managed by Neil Lennon. Of course, Rodgers saying it's fair to say that Benji will be looking to move on. He also talked up Siegrist's conduct, basically, professionalism over the past wee while, which I noticed he added saying, I can only speak for my year with him, but he's been exemplary. I think there's been rumours, hasn't there, of maybe things going on, Ben Siegrist in the Aussie tour, maybe not been fully focused on Celtic, let's just say, but we don't know if that's true or not. But I think Brendan Rodgers certainly going to make the point clear that Siegrist has been, professional over the past year since he's been at the club. So any comment on that, guys? I mean, he's fourth choice keeper, Tony, so not a Celtic career that never really got started, let's just say.
I think I wrote about it on the site that everybody was initially excited when he came in, but just didn't fulfil the role, did he? And got a chance, got injured as well, to be fair to him. But we all had high hopes, but it soon became apparent that those high hopes were going to be dashed. And apart from a couple of first team League Cup games, there's not much to report about Siegrist. I think I made the joke, didn't I? It was only an excuse joke. He came, he saw, he went away again. That's it, isn't it? Really, it's that's all you can say about Siegrist. And you wish him all the best, and here's hoping he can maybe resurrect his career under Neil Lennon at Rapid Bucharest.
Yeah, I guess we're sorted in the goalkeeping situation, Ryan. This has all happened since you've been away. Kasper Schmeichel, Voljami Sinizalo both signed, and Scott Bain, who was number 1 when you went on holidays, now seemingly number 3.
Yeah, and the forward planning, that's what I was talking about. I wanted to see forward planning in that position. I did think it was a tough sell having Kasper Schmeichel come in as the only goalkeeper. If it was just Kasper Schmeichel, I think there'd be quite a few dissenting voices. But the fact that there was the younger goalkeeper, Sinisalo, that came through first, the fact that he even talked up Kasper Schmeichel in a Finnish interview, saying that was his idol. What better way and what better person to learn off of than his idol, who will be the number 1 this season. I think both will play in games. There will be some rotation. I heard Tony last week talking about how he wants him to play in potentially the League Cup. I do agree with that. League Cup and Scottish Cup. I want to see Sinisalo come in for those games. Maybe even some league games too, because it's going to be a long old season. You're going to be fighting on 4 fronts with 4 different competitions. So plenty of game time required, and plenty of game time is there for the taking for both goalkeepers. If the two of them can share it out between them, then I'd have absolutely no problem with that. 2 goalkeepers, a goalkeeper of real quality and experience in Kasper Schmeichel. One that you would call a Celtic goalkeeper. He just looks like a Celtic goalkeeper, and him with the actual kit on now and seeing him with the training gear on, he just looks like a Celtic goalkeeper. He looks as if he fits the mould of being that, that experienced player, but also a vocal player at the back. He's the first line of defence, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing how he does, and looking forward to seeing him kind of fall in love with the club like Joe Hart did, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case.
Yeah, hopefully get to make his debut in midweek against Man City. We should get Carter Vickers and Daizen Maeda back for that as well. On the striker situation, Tony, some interesting quotes from Brendan Rodgers saying that his ideal scenario was to have 3 strikers. So Kyogo, one other, and bring through a youth player as well. And they'd come up with that youth player as being Rocco Vata, and offered that to Rocco Vata, and he said, no, I'm off to Watford. But that's the kind of perfect Brendan Rodgers scenario here, to have what he calls, and I thought this was interesting, 2 number 1 strikers, which is something that you mentioned a few months ago about Ida and Kyogo. He views them in the same kind of level, and also a youth player potentially.
I don't know who's listening to who, but clearly we're on the same page on that one. Yeah, it just seemed to me to be logical. What I want now is that other number 1 striker, because we only have 1 striker, don't we? Kyogo. Yeah. One recognised number 1 striker, so I want another number 1 striker. My preference is Adam Mida. I think the manager's preference is Adam Mida. Let's get that business done, Celtic. But yeah, that's the way I saw it all along. And obviously the promotion of a youth player into the setup was the new caveat attached to that, which I don't think is a bad thing, because if you have 2 number 1 strikers and you bring in a youth player to be the number 3, you just say to them, watch those 2.
Yeah.
Watch everything that they do, watch their movement, watch how they train, and learn. And if you're a youth player worth your salt, that's manna from heaven to me. That's your simple instruction. I'm going to learn from these guys. Got to study their movement, study what they do, study how they score goals, just study how they play in certain situations, how they play in Europe, how they play domestically, how they play in the big games, what their attitude application is. That's it. Case study, great. I think that's a wonderful thing. So whoever that young player is, I think that's a real opportunity, because there will be a time during the season where that spotlight will fall on you, and you'll be able to come in and show how much you've learned from studying the 2 number 1s. But yeah, I want another number 1. And you're talking about players to watch. I still think people need to watch out for Kyogo next season as well. He's been written off a bit, hasn't he? Last season, and he's still got 19 goals. He's still got 2 winners in derby matches. Yep. And hell hath no fury like a Celtic striker scorned. You know what I mean? He will, and he's come out the blocks and the traps in pre-season. He hit the post with a wonderful header, great save against DC United, and he missed the one he tried to dink, but Matt O'Reilly scored the rebound. So I think Kyogo's a man on a mission as well. And whoever comes in to be the number one striker alongside him, Kyogo will be like, cool, I relish that, and I'll step up to the plate more often than not as well. But the one thing with Kyogo is the service has to be right to Kyogo, which takes you back to the service providers, i.e. the wingers. Kyogo's game suffered badly last season because of a lack of quality service, so it's a big part of his game. But I think there's a wee bit in Kyogo thinking, by his high standards, 19 goals was not enough for him last season. I think 2025, he scored 34 the previous season, and he was probably wanting to better that or equal that kind of target. So I think in the back of his head he'll be thinking the same. I want more than 19 goals this season and I'm going to get it. But other people have to help him in that mix, and I include wingers in that. But getting back to your original question then, where's this number one striker to play alongside Kyogo if he wants to? Is it Adam Ida? If it's Adam Ida, put the Celtic supporters out of their misery and just go and sign him. If it's not, we have to look elsewhere, but we start to have to look elsewhere quickly. Which suggests to me that they're not looking elsewhere. So,
well, there's been no murmurs of, correct me if I'm wrong, there's been no murmurs of any other striker. I know people are saying Miovski, but there was interest, I think, like maybe 6 months ago or something like that, but there's been nothing this summer on any other striker apart from Adam Ida. I think the quotes are interesting because Rodgers is said in them that it's very difficult to have three top strikers, and he's basically ruled it out. So I think we can put to bed the idea of like Ida and Miovski signing, for example. The best we're going to get is going to be Ida, for example, and then a young striker. I think someone like Johnny Kenny, who's out on loan at the moment, is perfect for that third role because he seems to be relatively highly rated. He's doing well in Ireland, scored in the Champions League, scored a double in the Champions League last week. He, to me, would strike me as a kind of good player at that level for what we need, but obviously he's out on loan at the moment. But the Ida stuff's just dragging on, and it doesn't seem like there's any news there, and more people are kind of losing confidence that it's going to happen at this stage. I'm still fairly confident Adam Ida's going to sign, but I must admit it's kind of strange that you're not really hearing anything and he's still just away with Norwich, Ryan.
Yeah, and he got an assist as well at the weekend against Standard Liège, I believe they were playing in Belgium. It was a good pass actually to the other striker or to the other winger, and it was a good finish from the Norwich City player. But the more it's going on, the less I think it's going to happen, if I'm being perfectly honest. That's not based on anything apart from how long it's taken for this deal to go over the line. I'm more confident with Paulo Bernardo because there seems to be more talk about that. I don't know how many times you can frame the one article saying that Paulo Bernardo's on his way to Celtic. He's still in discussions with Celtic. In case you were wondering, he's still in conversations with Celtic and Benfica. And then last night he puts out an Instagram picture of him in Benfica training kit. So you're like, how long is that going to take? But if I was to put my money on one of those two players happening, it would be Paulo Bernardo because it seems much further down the road than anything with Adam Ida. The new Norwich City manager seems pretty keen on him. I know he has to say that because it's a player that he's working with, but he has been complimentary of Ida on more than one occasion. I'm just worried that Celtic have put all their eggs in the one basket here. They've expected Adam Ida to come to the club. It's not happened, and then they'll be scrambling to bring in another player. They'll have to do their scouting quickly if it isn't going to happen for Adam Ida. I don't think it can happen for much longer, this scouting of the player. The season starts a week on Sunday, and time is ticking. He needs to get a pre-season, they need to get a player in and get acclimatised to their new surroundings if it is to be a new player. So yeah, I'm not wholly confident that Adam Ida will be a Celtic player next season, because I think if the deal was done, if the deal was there to be done, and I know negotiations happen, then it would already be done by now, and he'd be a Celtic player and he'd be in America at this moment in time. But yeah, it's a complex issue, but Celtic at the moment only have one striker. Somebody in the comments was saying, was it a mistake to let O go? I don't think so, because I don't think he was good enough to play for Celtic long term. Maybe he could have turned into that player, but at this point in time, I don't think he was good enough to be a Celtic striker. That may change in Belgium, but for the moment, I think the only player good enough to play for Celtic up front at this moment is Kyogo. that's why he's only striking at the club.
Yeah, I get that. I just think it's so frustrating from a fan's point of view that we're now 13 days before the start of the season. We've not signed an outfield player yet. Like it's quite kind of ridiculous when you think about it. I've always got in the back of my mind, like, we do have time. I mean, I know as fans we want everything in early, and I think we're right to feel that way. I think the club think about it differently, and I think they look at the deadline of, the end of August is when they want their players in by, and I don't know if they feel they can get through the opening weeks of the season with the squad we have at the moment. I don't think that's a ridiculous shout. The squad we have at the moment is good enough to win the opening games, but I think as fans we want players in early. We want things done quickly. We want the manager backed, and we want to give ourselves the best chance of a fast start to the season and a good time in the Champions League. And it just feels to me like time is just dragging on, and you wonder, at this stage, are we going to be going right to the end of August, Tony, to fill these problem positions?
You'd hope not, but correct me if I'm wrong, the initial $4.5 million bid for Adamida was made on the 3rd of July. It's the 22nd.
Sounds about right.
It's the 22nd of July. That's 19 days. That's worrying, isn't it? That's a concern. That they're not even gone in with a second bid. I mean, come on. This is a guy who the manager who... Go on, Ryan.
I think the prices went up. I think the prices went up for Adamida, and this is the problem when you don't have an option to buy in a player. At the mercy of Norwich. Yeah.
You make a decision then. You either the manager wants him. You're either prepared to pay it, or you're not. This whole dragging things on is frustrating. There's an argument here, and we saw it in about 4 comments in a row there. So I'm going to bring it up. It's along these lines from Maestro. Still think the board looks across the city. It's a thing you hear supporters say at all times, and I'd love to shoot that question down. Of course they don't. Of course they're only focused on Celtic. But do you think there's any substance actually in that? The fact that they're a complete car crash across the city, and the board think, right, just relax, we've got time here.
It shouldn't be the barometer. Celtic should be looking at higher than that. They should be looking at Europe.
But I'm asking, do you think it could happen? I think it
wouldn't surprise
possible.
me. Wouldn't surprise me. I just think there should have been more business done by now. It's the 22nd of July. I was feeling pretty optimistic at the end of the season. I thought that maybe this would be the tide was turning and Celtic were actually going to bolster their squad ahead of the new season. So far, they've spent $1 million on 2 goalkeepers. They actually only spent a fee on one of those players in Sinisalo. They've got money in the bank. They've got cash and reserves. They've got assets all over the park. But there's 2 things that are concerning for me. One is the lack of signings, and the other one is the lack of outgoings as well. Celtic have got a bloated squad. You look at those training videos and players going off the plane and that. There's so many players there that, at the end of last season, you were like, oh, they'll be away in the summer. And yet they're still there. You've got the likes of Kobayashi, Mikey Johnson, name loads of players there that haven't been moved on. There just isn't enough. There isn't enough business getting done either way in terms of outgoings or incomings. It just feels quite stagnant at the moment, if you ask me.
It's frustrating, Tony. We see it every day, the comments coming in, and it's just like another day passes. I think we praised the club for the goalkeeping signings because that was good work, but as I repeat, we're on July the 22nd, 13 days out for the start of the season. We've not signed an outfielder yet, and I think we all feel as fans that there's at least 4, maybe 5 positions that we need to recruit in.
I've said before, the fans deserve this. They fork out their hard-earned cash. Today they've put up on their website the 3rd kit, haven't they? Adamida would actually feel
away
home
kit.
Adamida would feel home in that kit. It's like a Norwich Celtic hybrid cross, isn't it? But there you go. You have to say that is concerning. And you talk about looking over the other side of the city. You'd like to think it doesn't come into their thinking, but the more and more you look at the situation, the board's ambition doesn't match the Celtic supporters. Celtic supporters have vaulting ambition for their club, and that includes being successful in Europe. The board just seem to be content to keep Rangers at arm's length and win the title and get access to the Champions League money. As Ryan says, just be stagnant and don't actually do much with it. there is no point in bumping your gums about having X amount of millions in the bank. There is no point saving it for a rainy day or reserves or a time when you don't qualify for the Champions League. We're not asking Celtic to be financially reckless, but you're asking for outfield players to come in long before the start of the season in positions where everybody has identified that need filled, and there just seems to be no movement on that whatsoever. You trust the manager in his public statements and proclamations, but we are less than 2 weeks away from the Premiership kick-off. You would have thought at least one or two outfield players would have been in by now. It's concerning, but again, it's Groundhog Day, isn't it? They might surprise you again by going out this week and bringing in 1, 2, 3 players. But the more time ticks down, the more you're thinking they seriously are contemplating not bringing in outfield players. They're seriously not looking over the road and thinking we've got enough to win the title again. Or they're seriously not thinking we'll wait and see how much we get for Matt O'Reilly and do business before the start of the season. Ryan said that kind of thing's unthinkable. But it's not inconceivable, is it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Sorry, just quickly. As things stand, Celtic will have Greg Taylor and Liam Scales in their starting 11 against Kilmarnock. Those players were pretty much said at the end of last season that replacements were needed in those areas by the majority of people, that those were two positions that needed strengthened going into the new season. As things stand, those two will be starting against Kilmarnock. So there's plenty of work to do for Celtic in order.
And Mikey Johnson will still be kicking around Celtic first team squads.
Yeah.
That tells you that's the biggest indictment of your recruitment. Sorry, Hamish, on you go.
Just playing devil's advocate there from the club's point of view, just to try and get into the minds of how the club will think. You're saying Greg Taylor and Liam Scales will start that game, and I think fans would look at that as being not great. You'd have wanted a left back, certainly a centre back in by then, but the club will be looking at it as, these guys helped us win the league last year, so it's hardly a disaster that they're starting. I think if they were starting the first Champions League game, as supporters, we'd be absolutely, folk won't be able to deal with that. But the club, just trying to think how the club might think. That's what I mean. They might look at these opening league matches, and we're all focused on. First of all, we're focused on the US trip. We need players in by then. Now it's kind of the Kelly game. We need players in by the Kelly game. The club are probably looking at August the 30th as being when they need their players in. No, which is not good enough. It's too late.
Yeah, if you want players to acclimatise to their new surroundings and instantly stake a claim, then they've got to be in now. They've got to be in yesterday. Pre-season, the US tour. You get players on this pre-season tour, and with the greatest of respect, they're there to get game time for a potential move away. Look at Lagerbielke, who's suddenly found himself back in the starting lineup or playing in games. He wasn't good enough in November, December last season, and now all of a sudden he might even get game time next season. It's a puzzling situation at the moment in certain areas. I think they will strengthen. It's just when they strengthen, and will it be too late when they do strengthen in these areas?
I get what you're saying, Hamish, about the August deadline, and the manager's kind of mentioned that too. So maybe he does think that the squad just now is capable of coping with the first raft of games, but did they play Rangers the third game in?
Fourth
game in, yeah. So, and I'm not saying looking at Rangers squad that they can come to Celtic Park and give you a bloody nose, but it's still a derby game, isn't it? And anything can happen. And I just look at Celtic, you just think there is no room for any margin of error over the opening games of the season. I want to collect maximum points, especially if Rangers are in a situation where they're in where their fans are worried about but I don't know particularly care about the shape of Rangers team, but I'll particularly care if they come to Celtic Park and take points off you because we've been negligent and not brought in players when we should have. We all want players in yesterday. I get that, and I get there's time and there maybe is a bigger picture they're looking at strengthening. to bring the quality in for Europe. I get all that. But in between times, you've got to play domestic football matches and win domestic football matches, and get some kind of head of speed up and momentum before you go into these competitions. And ideally, you would do that with a settled squad or settled in terms of the fact that you've brought new players in and they've had a chance to get to know their new teammates, get to know their surroundings and are comfortable with the system that Brendan Rodgers wants to play. I find it staggering that they've not brought in an outfield player yet. And as Ryan said, we've been saying since the season finished, left back and centre back, in particular reference to Greg Taylor and Liam Scales, you saw them as both as squad players moving forward. Yet you are now looking at, I never thought for a minute that you would be looking at the two of them playing against Kilmarnock in 13 days' time. But you are looking at that, aren't you? Unless something drastic happens in the next couple of weeks in Celtic, all of a sudden spurs the cash on all the positions that we want filled.
You're actually at the stage now where you'd be surprised if either of those guys are not playing against Kilmarnock. And nothing against those guys. I mean, Greg Taylor especially has been, a really kind of solid player, I would say, over the last few years. Certainly domestically, there's obviously questions when he goes up a level, but I think Celtic, it's hard to put into words because as I keep saying, the club will be looking at, I'm sure their goal will be, as long as we get these players in by the transfer deadline, it's job done. I think as supporters, we just wanted to see something else. We wanted to see things done quickly this window, efficiently, get the squad in, have them all in America at the moment, getting to know each other and ready to go for the Killie game. Because we saw last season, when we got signings in at the end, it didn't really work. It felt rushed. There was weird loan signings, like Nat Phillips and guys like that just didn't work at all. And it just feels to me, it just feels very similar to last season. And I hope it's not, because if it's like last season, it's going to be kind of miserable for a few months. We need to get quality in, otherwise the Champions League's just going to be tough. Once again, it's going to be tough as it is, but we need quality in. Right, okay, we've done that again. So we'll probably return tomorrow when there'll be hopefully some sort of news. I say that every single day, everyone, but we'll stick with it regardless. The good news is the team on the pitch seem like they're in form early on in the season. I know DC United weren't up to a great deal, but it seems like we're going to maybe have a bit of confidence to start the season. I say that before we play Manchester City in a couple of days, probably the best team on the planet. So that'll be a test for us. We'll preview that game tomorrow. Speak to you then.